Hello, my name is Joey Zabel and I'm with Arise and Flourish. I'm here today to present to you the cycle of addiction. So my goal is really simple. By the end of this presentation, you, the viewer, will understand addiction as a disease in a very simple way. And hopefully, you'll know what to do if you find yourself or a loved one in a situation where they're struggling with addiction, being addicted to drugs or alcohol. All right, so let's begin. To start off, we need to talk about what causes people to use in the first place. So let's think about stress in your life. Sitting in your chairs now, just raise your hands. Who here ever has stress in their life? Good. Hopefully, all of you raised your hand. Every human being in the world deals with stress. It's just a normal way of life. So I'm just going to put up a few things that we hear in classrooms when we do this presentation live. One thing, school. Some things that go along with school, homework, relationships, teachers, college, money, and then going beyond school, we have family, parents, siblings, health. Some of us struggle with physical ailments, different diseases, being sick, being injured. Some students we've heard, they talk about divorce. The parents are going through a divorce. You know, it's always tough. People recently moved. Okay? Then when we experience stress like these, things that cause stress, when we experience stress over a prolonged period of time, over a long period of time, we may have certain extreme feelings. So what are some of the feelings we experience after we've been under stress for a long period of time? So I'll just put them up here. These are things that I've heard from other students in classrooms when we do this presentation live. Anxiety, depression, frustration, anger, fear, hopelessness, tired. These are just to name several feelings. So when we look at this list, okay, what we're talking about is life. And as we age, as we get older, and we maybe graduate from high school, or I don't know what grade you're in, but if we graduate from high school, we may decide to go to college, or we may just decide to get a job. And as we get older and we get more responsibilities in life, we have more things that cause stress in our life. Maybe we get our family of our own, we buy our own vehicle, rent our own apartment or house, or buy a property of our own. We start having to pay our own insurance. We have to pay for our children now. We have to pay, our own bills. We have different health issues, so our stress just keeps mounting up and mounting up. And with that, we have stronger feelings. We still have the feelings we have the whole time. So the feelings don't stop. So what happens? Now we're going to shift to talking about how an addict responds to stress or extreme feelings. So I myself am a person in recovery, in long-term recovery. That means I was addicted to drugs and alcohol for a very long time, and I dealt with life on life's terms very badly when I was using. So what happens? So when we're under stress for a long time, as an addict, what I did is I would use drugs. Now think about that for a second. Why use drugs to deal with stress and feelings? It's very simple. Drugs were my solution. So if I was angry or if I was anxious, I would take a certain type of drug to help me calm down. So some of you probably know, what's an anti-anxiety medication that you can be prescribed by a doctor? Xanax, exactly. Alcohol is another depressant that works very well for anxiety. In the beginning, it works very well. And I started drinking at a very young age. I was 8 years old when I had my first drink. So when I would drink, I would feel less anxious. If I was depressed later in life and I found cocaine was a great stimulant. It made me less depressed. Actually, it cured my depression instantly. So I wasn't depressed anymore when I would do cocaine, although those effects are short-lasting and have long-term damaging effects. So I'm not advocating to do illicit drugs in order to deal with my feelings. That's just what I did, and this is what addicts do. We find that drugs are our solution. We use drugs for the effect, which is why we use it, because it works. And the effect we're looking for is ease and comfort. Okay? When I do drugs or drink, it makes me feel good inside. It makes me feel comfortable in my own skin. Because growing up as an addict in an alcoholic home, people that were alcoholics around me, it was a very turbulent, emotionally damaging situation. I didn't have a lot of emotional support. So when I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel like comfortable with myself. I wasn't sure who I was. I didn't get a lot of good affirmations, or didn't have a lot of strong role models. But when I drank, or I smoked weed as a young boy, it made me feel better. It made me feel okay. I could laugh. I could have fun. So I grew to believe that was the only way I could have fun, was if I was using or drinking. And so it starts a vicious cycle. And I lived like that for a long time. I used until I was 42 years old, and that's when I found a new way to live. I found other ways to manage my feelings and my stress. Okay, so what happens after I put the drug in my body? And alcohol is a drug. So when I refer to drugs, I'm also referring to alcohol. So I put the drug in my body. So what happens? 1D, one drink or drug, equals 1C. And the C stands for a craving. So let's talk about cravings for a minute. Set aside the addiction part. When you think, just think to yourselves, when you think of something, some type of food that you crave, just picture that, okay? Picture type of food you crave. Okay, for me, it's Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Okay, I love Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And sometimes I crave them, they just come out of nowhere. And if I crave them, I'll go to whatever place I can. Usually 7-Eleven's close by. Now, you have a lot of options for Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, right? You can buy the 2-pack, or you can buy the king size with 4 in it, or you can buy the big cup, the king size, the big thick cups, I don't know what they're called, but they're big, like big cups. And you can buy one of those, you can buy 2. So normally I limit myself to 1 king size 4-pack of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, because the truth is I will eat a lot of them, but I have to limit myself. So what happens is I eat 2 of them and I feel pretty good, but I always end up finishing all 4. After I finish all 4, I'm satisfied. I don't run back to the store and buy more Reese's Peanut Butter Cups right in that moment, because it's so sweet and there's so much peanut butter and chocolate deliciousness that my craving is satisfied. It is satiated. Now, why am I talking about this? Because this is how a normal, healthy brain responds to food intake. So I crave something sweet, or it may be savory for some of you. Maybe some of you it's whatever, popcorn or whatever. So I get the food that I crave, I eat it, my stomach starts to get full, it sends these signals to my brain saying, hey, we're full down here, stop eating. My brain processes that information and is able to make a decision to stop eating. So it goes through all these processes in my head and says, yes, it's a good idea to stop eating, so stop eating. So I stop eating the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, and I don't get sick and vomit, right? So that's the idea. That's how normal brains work. Now let's talk about the addicted brain, which I have had. I'm not addicted now. I mean, I'm an addict, but I'm not currently addicted to any mood or mind-altering substance. I don't use anything. I've been clean for over 4 years. But when I was using, if I took one drink or one drug, or if I took a drink or a drug now, the way my brain is wired, addicts' brains are wired differently than normal people. And by the way, about 15% of the population is addicted, or has the tendency to be addicted and will become addicted to drugs or alcohol in their lifetime. So if I take one drink, one beer, one sip of alcohol, right? my cravings are activated. It activates the addiction and these cravings start. Now the difference between cravings for an addict for a drug or a drink than food is they're never able to be satiated. So this is the way the addict craving works. One drink, I get a craving. So instead of that craving being satiated, my cravings are exacerbated. They're amplified. So I take a drink, wow, that felt really good. I got some relief from this anxiety I had, or I did a line of cocaine and I'm not as depressed, but if one felt good, I'll bet two would be better. And this is just how addicts think. Now check this out. This is where it gets funny. When I do my second one, the craving gets stronger. It doesn't get satisfied. It doesn't get alleviated. It gets amplified. So I just want it more, so I'll do another one. So I take a third one, and now the cravings get even stronger. And every time I take another drink or drug, my cravings get worsened. They get more and more. And this goes on and on, okay? So you get the point. Once I take a drink, I get the cravings start, and as I take more, it's just like this momentum, and it's accelerated. So just to give you an example, the last time I was on 5 different drugs, including heroin, crack cocaine, oxycodone, methamphetamine, crystal meth, and marijuana. Okay, all at the same time, and I was using days and days in a row, like 2 weeks straight. I didn't stop. I was never clean for 2 weeks straight until finally I got arrested. That's how I stopped. So eventually, every addict or alcoholic reaches this point where they hit the wall. Sometimes we literally hit a wall with a car. We get in a car accident. We wake up in the hospital. We pass out. Okay, we pass out because we drank so much that we finally, our body shuts down. Or in terms of somebody doing a stimulant like crystal meth or cocaine, you're up for 3 to 7 days in a row. Eventually, the body shuts down and we crash. So we go to sleep or we die. And if we don't die, and we come to. So this is what happens, okay? We go and go until we hit a wall and we can't use anymore because our body shuts down. I get physically locked up, and this is unfortunately what happens to a lot of addicts, this is where we die. Because we're using out of control. We're not talking about milkshakes and Reese's peanut butter cups or chicken wings. We're talking about heroin. We're talking about cocaine. We're talking about crystal meth. We're talking about alcohol. Things that can kill us when taken in too large of a quantity. Sometimes one hit and you're done. One shot of fentanyl and you're dead. That happens to a lot of people. So a lot of addicts die here. If we don't die and we hit the wall of some sort, something makes us stop. For me, it was a jail cell that made me stop. Okay? So I come to, I wake up and I've got no drugs in my system. What does the addict experience when they wake up? When they come to with no drugs in their system? We're filled with this feeling, this intense feeling of remorse. And what I mean by remorse is it's an intense sensation of regret. Like, I just ruined my life. When I woke up in that jail cell, when the heroin had worn off, and the cocaine was gone, I'm in the jail cell, wearing a jumpsuit, I'm by myself in that cell, and all I could think about was my little daughter, who was 7 years old at the time, and had nobody to take her sledding that day, because it had just been a major snowstorm. Back in 2016 was a major snowstorm. Nobody was there to take her sledding. I couldn't be there for her. I couldn't even call her, because I was locked in the cell. And I felt terrible. I felt like I failed as a human being. I failed as a father. I failed as an employer, as an employee, as a son. I failed. That's how I felt. And I felt sick to my stomach. It wasn't just a thought, oh man, I messed it up. It was like, no, I ruined my life. How did I end up here? Remorse. Now, remember this life on life's terms? All this stuff is still here. I have the job that I lost, the money I don't have. I have the family I can't see. My daughter doesn't know her daddy. So I got this remorse, and I got all these intense feelings, and all this stress in my life, and everything is just so intensified. Now, I couldn't live life on life's terms before, okay? Before I came around this cycle and felt this intense feeling of remorse. How am I supposed to stay clean and sober when I couldn't do it before? Now I've just ruined, I made it worse by getting in some legal troubles. Now they let me out of jail. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I need some relief. I'm going to go back and use more drugs. And that's exactly what I did when I got released from jail. Within an hour, I was using again. And this is normal for addicts. We can't blame addicts for using. This is how we're built. This is how our brain works. When we come off the drugs, we're filled with anxiety. We're riddled with anxiety and depression. It's very hard not to going to back to get our self-prescribed illicit medicine. Okay, we use illegal drugs sometimes it's legal alcohol or Xanax, but we need it to survive. We're not using to have fun anymore. We're using to survive. This is the only way we know how to survive is by putting this drug in our system to manage these extreme feelings that I can't deal with. I don't know how to deal with them. I didn't. And I go back and I use for that effect, try to get that effective ease and comfort, and then I start this cycle all over again where I have these cravings that I can't manage, okay? And I go back around and it just keeps getting worse and worse every time. I go around this cycle, it gets worse and worse. That's why people say addiction is a progressive disease. It's progressive. It gets worse over time. The more we use, the more we build a tolerance for drugs and alcohol, the more we need to feel that same effect. And it looks like we're chasing something when we do this, right? All right, so let's break this down. Okay. There are two parts to the disease of addiction. I'm going to talk about this in plain language. On this side of the disease, we have the physical aspect. Physical, our bodies and brains, okay? Brains, physical matter, physical. Once I put the drug in my physical body and it affects my brain and my moods and all that, okay? Once I start, I can't stop. Once I start using, I can't stop. It's a very important point to remember, and if you remember this and this other side, you'll know more about the disease of addiction than 90% of the population of the world. Once I put a drug in me, I can't stop. I have something wrong with my brain, doesn't work right, doesn't respond to cravings like normal people's do. There is not enough heroin, alcohol, or cocaine in the world to satisfy the craving of an addict. Not enough. The cravings get worse as we use. That's why we can't stop. And you look at us when we're using like that, you think you're going to die, you're going to kill yourself, and we keep going anyway. So once I start, I can't stop. Now, look at this side, okay? There's a line here. This side, we've come out of the run. This is called a run, or spree. We come out of the run, we have no drugs or alcohol in our system, we're completely clean and sober. We're filled with this feeling of remorse, we're riddled with guilt, anxiety, depression, fear, anger, hopelessness, we're exhausted, right? We're filled with all these feelings, okay? This is the mental or emotional part of the disease. All right, we're talking about our thoughts and feelings, not physical, but this what we think about and how we feel, okay? Mental and emotional. And a really easy way to remember this. Once I stop using, I can't stay stopped. So once I come out of this run of using daily and all day till I pass out or get arrested or end up in the hospital, and I come out of that, in spite of all the consequences, I can't stay stopped because I'm a crazy person without the drugs in my system. My thoughts are rushing. I'm so riddled with anxiety, I can barely stand here and talk to people. I can barely sit in a chair. All I can think about is getting and using because I need relief. I need to survive. It's survival for an addict. It's not a matter of pleasure. It's not a matter of having fun. It's a matter of living or dying for us. That's how it feels to us. It feels so real. So when we talk about this, we're talking about obsession and compulsion. Compulsion is using, okay, when we talk about compulsively using drugs or alcohol, we're compulsively using without any ability to stop ourselves. We can't help it. And obsessing is thinking about it until I can't stop thinking about it. So I can't stop thinking about using until I use. And once I use, I can't stop using. So I keep going back and forth. And when I do run out, I start obsessing about it. I start obsessing about it until I use. I use until I run out. That's how it goes, obsession and compulsion. We go back and forth and around the cycle until we die or we get help. So this is the last part of this presentation is what to do if you find yourself trapped in this mess of the cycle of addiction. What do you do? It seems impossible. In fact, another way to describe this cycle is powerlessness, because we are powerless over the disease just the way we're powerless over any disease we get. If you have diabetes, can you think your way out of diabetes? Can you think your way out of cancer? We need help. There are millions of people in recovery, just like me, that were caught up in the cycle of addiction, waiting to die one day, that found a new way to live. And the way to do that is to ask for help. We are not alone, and you are not alone. There are as many people out there willing to help as there are people looking for help. More. Because people like me, once we find a new way to live in recovery, part of our mission in life is to help others. That's how this thing works. So what we recommend is you talk to someone you trust. If you find yourself struggling, or you think you might have a lot of anxiety, and you're not talking about it, or you find yourself being depressed, unable to get up and go to school, or take a shower, or brush your teeth, take care of yourself, or you find yourself obsessing about drinking, or you're using during this, you're using and you're taking drugs that you're not prescribed, or find someone you can trust. I hope it's your parents, but it's not always. Sometimes our parents are some of the culprits in our life. There are school teachers that you can trust, counselors, there's a friend, maybe another family member or adult friend that you can trust, somebody to talk to and say, hey, I need help. You can also call a bunch of different helplines. If you go to our website, it's ariseandflourish.org. We have resources on our website. You can contact them by email or by telephone. So if you have any questions, please talk to your teacher. She knows how to contact us, and we are here to help as a resource. Thank you all very much for paying attention. Hopefully I'll see you in person one of these days when I come back to your schools. Thank you.